Now I'm going to talk you through an answer to this question for 6 marks. Analyse the consequences of economic growth for an economy. In the last video, I gave you a quick overview of how to answer the question. Because it says analyse, you need to make sure you've got enough detail. It says consequences, plural, so you need more than one consequence. Remember, a consequence can be something negative or something positive. And it's the implications for the economy. So that could be the economy in general, but you could look at consumers or producers or the government, any of those economic agents. You need to make sure particularly that you have enough detail and that you have application. Your application can be saying, for example, giving a real life example of something. So I'll just talk you through this. Economic growth means that an economy's output increases. This shows that you understand at the beginning the right theory and you understand the definition. This will mean that more workers are required, causing a decrease in unemployment. So this is a consequence that there will be a decrease in unemployment. So this is the first point that I'm making here, my first consequence. And we've explained why you need more workers because the output's gone up. Additionally, these people who now have a job and were previously unemployed will now be receiving an income, raising their standard of living. So this is another consequence for the economy of having economic growth. So what I'm now going to do, I'm going to explain why they'll have an increase in their standard of living. They will now be able to purchase more products that they couldn't afford when just receiving job seekers allowance. This again shows that you understand what job seekers allowance is. You understand that when they were willing and able to work but they couldn't find a job, they will have been claiming job seekers allowance. And by showing that, it means that you have given much more detail rather than just saying that their standard of living will go up. You've pointed out that before they would have only received this lower amount of income probably. For example, so this is an example of application. The person may now be able to afford some luxuries such as eating out, which will give them benefit. So this is giving a real life example. That's what application is. Additionally, so moving on to another point now, it's likely that firms will now make higher profits. And I've said likely. Writing the word likely rather than saying things will definitely happen makes it more nuanced and makes it realize that you're thinking about things more deeply. So they'll make higher profits, and then I'm going to explain why. This is the detail. Because increased output leads to increased incomes and expenditure. This is what we've said above, that people have got higher incomes because more people have got jobs, and therefore they'll be spending more. As firms make greater profits, they can. So now I'm going to say even more detail. Because they've got these higher profits, what can they do? They can invest this into capital. That's the right terminology. Saying capital, you mean machinery, but that's the right economic terminology, which is also good. Increasing the capital stock in the economy and therefore the economy's productive potential and ability to grow further in the future. This gives even more detail which has flowed from these firms making higher profits. But you're talking about the implications for the whole of the economy because they come from the changes that have happened to companies. It actually affects the whole of the economy, and they're capable of growing in the future because they're capable of producing more. Their productive potential has gone up. Another impact is that the government will collect more tax revenue. So this is another point. As incomes increase, consumption goes up and firms' profits increase. So I haven't just said that they'll get more tax revenue. I've explained why. I've said as, and I've said why they'll be getting more tax revenue. These factors will cause income tax, VAT, and corporation tax receipts to increase respectively. So I've actually said the type of tax revenue which will be collected from these 3 areas, why they will be getting more tax revenue. And I've been careful to say it'll cause income tax, VAT, and corporation tax receipts. It's the amount of money that the government receives, not the rate of tax. They actually get more money in from taxes. The government can then use, so then I'm saying what will happen afterwards, explaining in more detail, this revenue to spend on areas like education and healthcare. So that's application because I'm giving examples. which will, so I'm giving even more detail, likely increase the country's future economic growth as productive potential is increased. And that's because you're improving your labour, that factor of production. If people are more educated and healthier, they're capable of producing more. So the economy's productive potential goes up. And the last point, because it says analyse at the beginning, you don't need a conclusion or any